What's up? This is Darker Days Radio, episode number 58. I'm one of your hosts, Mike, and tonight I'm joined by Chris. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, yeah, pretty good. Yeah, lots of stuff's going on. So, yeah, good. How are you doing?
I am doing quite well, thank you for asking. And of course, joining us straight from Texas, where it's blazing hot outside, Chigg. How's it going, Chigg?
Pretty good, as long as you don't go out in that heat.
Yeah, definitely. So what's going on, everyone? What's everyone's gaming been like?
Let's see. I have a wad of Fading Suns character sheets because I want to do some pre-gen characters so we can possibly run some Fading Suns in my gaming group. But otherwise, been playing some more War Machine and Horde, so I finally got to use my Kador with as a 35-point army, so that's been fun. I got to use Alexia and her Risen, which was interesting. And I've been, it's up on the blog already, done part one of my making planets. So I bought some polystyrene balls from the art store, and I've just been applying this textured paint in 3 different ways to get different textures to have the look of a gas giant, a Earth-like planet, and a small lifeless moon. So I'll mostly paint those up later on, and then this week I hopefully will have my Noble Armada fleets arrive. So I will also be painting them because FASA has the rights to Noble Armada, and we'll be sorting out a new rule set for that game, and it would be nice to have that rule set alongside the roleplay game.
Yeah, it definitely should be pretty good. Your plants are looking pretty sweet so far. A lot better than the old GW plants I remember seeing in Battlefleet Gothic. So yeah, definitely
Did they do
pretty creative.
I can't even remember the stuff they did for that. Were they quite flat or?
Yeah, they just took the styrene balls and just painted right over them.
Do they just paint them straight over? Oh,
Yeah, there's no texture or anything, which I definitely think will help for making it pop out a bit more when you're painting.
Okay, cool. And obviously, I finished another project for FASA, so I'm moving on to another one and another one and another one. Yeah, I get to spill some beans though in a particular interview that we're doing right now, but we'll get to that later, I'm sure.
Indeed. And Chigg, what's up? What's been going on, man?
Unfortunately, not a thing. My group hasn't been able to meet for a couple of weeks now, so...
But you at least painted your little gremlins from Malifaux, right?
I did paint some gremlins from Malifaux.
Yep, that's good.
I may have also dropped some money on an additional army for Malifaux because it's super fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a good one. All right, that's cool. Well, hopefully things pick up a bit in the next couple of weeks. That should be good. On my end, not too much for role playing, but I went to Origins, played a whole lot of Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, and it was a 3-day event. Came out pretty strong day one. Really pwned some noobs overall, and then day 2, I just got completely crushed and tied for last place. So that wasn't very good. But then day 3,
as a noob.
Day 3, it's pretty much like a Rocky movie here, guys. Day 3, I come back in the losers bracket, and I'm the champion of the losers bracket.
You are the best loser.
That's right. Hey, someone's got to be. Yeah. So that's pretty good. What else did I do? Oh, I played some Battletech and actually bought some Battletech dudes. So I'll be painting up some battle mechs and maybe I'll post them on the blog to, combat all of the War Machine stuff that Chris has put up there.
Yeah, well, it'll soon be little spaceships. So, yeah, it was a bit of diversity. I mean, we even had someone say on somewhere on Facebook, like, what's up with the Darker Days crew? They're all just painting toy soldiers right now. And I think my response to that is there's only so much reading of books of World of Darkness stuff and other things and writing roleplay stuff and running your own roleplay things until you reach a point where, there's something satisfying about just sitting down, putting something together, painting it, and using it, and not having it's very much more tactile, which when you're reading lots of role-play game books, you don't quite get the same experience in that way.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, Chris. But just to keep this listener happy, you know what? I've got right in front of me a vampire miniature and a werewolf miniature for a Nexus Crawler and Tarek the Silent. So I will paint those up just for that listener. So we have some World of Darkness stuff up there.
But Mike, you play the BattleTech roleplay game as well. So the miniatures for you kind of a dual purpose.
Well, I actually just picked up the role-playing game. I had the PDF for a while, but I just picked up a book 3 weeks ago or something. I've been kind of digging into that. So that's actually kind of an interesting game because the role-playing game is just an extension of the BattleTech board game. Mm-hmm. So instead of having your pilot with 2 stats, as is typical in the board game, now you have a full character sheet for your dude.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yep.
And for me, all the War Machine stuff is all really, I mean, the reason I've got such a, I would say, compared to some other people who play War Machine Hordes, quite a diverse collection is simply because I bought what was really required to run the Witchfire trilogy. So that's why I have Alexia, that's why I have Gator Men, and a few other things. So that kind of works out quite well. And the same thing with the Fading Suns spaceships, they'll come in handy. And I mean, Chigg with your Malifaux miniatures, obviously they are doing at some point, or the Kickstarter has been and gone, I can't quite remember, for the Malifaux roleplay game.
It has been and gone, and unfortunately I missed it. But they should have the books available at Gen Con, so I'm probably going to pick up at least the first book there. So
there again, you've got a reason to have
and I'll totally have
stuff.
I'll have dozens and dozens of minis ready to go.
Exactly. So it's kind of useful. I mean, I'm not really one for using minis all the time in a roleplay game because there's a point where they become a distraction to the story. Absolutely. So it's not like, I'm not one for dungeon crawling with miniatures, but doing set pieces like your characters finally get to say some ambush place where they lay their trap, and you just put everything out so the players have a better idea of what they're doing rather than it being all very abstract in their head. And this is why I'm excited. There's still more delays on it, but we've seen now more of the finished stuff for Kingdom Death, and that I think is going to be really great for Exalted because you look at all the characters and the types of pieces of armor and equipment, and again, it's sometimes these things are useful just to prod our inspiration for roleplay games.
Sure, you can mine anything for sort of looking for inspiration for your game.
Yeah. Cool. So what's been going on with Onyx Path then, news-wise? I guess we should have a look at that.
We should move on over to the news segment. So, Onyx Path used to just be one man, but now it's 3 people. New to the Onyx Path, of course, is Lisa and Mike. So, we're definitely very excited to see Rich Thomas expanding his entire operation. And it should be really cool to have these other two people on board. So, welcome, Lisa and Mike.
Welcome aboard.
It's good to see more people involved in it. I mean, what are their roles exactly? I can't quite remember. Is one of them involved with, say, layout type stuff?
Yeah, Mike Cheney is layout and artwork, and then Lisa is, I don't remember her last name, but she is involved with accounting and making sure all the money is good.
Okay, good. Cool.
Yep, definitely. And Rich Thomas is still kind of, leader and creative director. So
it's Lisa Thomas, by the way.
Thanks, Chigg. Thanks.
I'm here for you.
Thanks, man. Anyway, in addition to that, we of course have some new Onyx Path books coming out. So, first up is of course Rites of Blood for Vampire 20th Anniversary Edition. This is a thaumaturgy book, which actually the text and rituals were released last summer, I believe. I recall looking through them and just kind of like checking them out for my own Tremere Chronicle, which, only had one session, unfortunately. But definitely some pretty cool stuff in there. There's not only things for, basic Tremere thaumaturgy, but also the Tal Mahara, the True Black Hand, and also even the Incarnu have some rituals in there. So it's all pretty neat. There's no path magic, which I thought was a very interesting designed decision on the part of Eddie Webb when he was going into this book. But I think overall, it's definitely a pretty strong one, and there's a lot of, it's not just a catalog of spells and that sort of thing. There's definitely a lot of very interesting discussion about how these different factions and clans accept their versions of thaumaturgy and how they're used. So definitely some cool stuff. And additionally, one of the authors is Rhys Sosby, who's a pretty cool gal who works on Guild Wars 2. So yeah, nice to see her back working on World of Darkness stuff. Yeah, and after that we have Flowers of Hell, which is the Demon of the Descent Player's Guide.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Player's Guide. All right, good. And I have yet to check that out, but it's definitely cool to see more options for Demon of the Descent. It's definitely a very a game that requires a lot of upfront work for players when they're doing character creation. So having more options and more insight into that can only help the game. So definitely good stuff there. What else do we got? We have Songs of the Sun and Moon anthology for Werewolf 20th. This is a Changing Breeds anthology. So definitely cool for those backers of that source book. I didn't back it, so I don't have a copy right now. So
I did.
Oh, sweet. All right, Chigg. Since you've obviously read all of it, how's it looking?
No. I've read the table of contents, and it looks neat.
Oh, okay, cool. That's definitely good. Any authors that popped out?
Nothing that
really
really stood out and stayed in my memory, apparently. So.
Oh, okay.
It's on my to-read list. It's one of the many foothills to read mountain.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the Werewolf 20th anthology that came out previously, Womanly Rage 2, I think I only read the first 2 stories of that one, which were okay. So yeah, I completely understand your situation, Chigg. But additionally, we have another source book that came out, which is Mortal Remains for Hunter the Vigil. This is definitely a very interesting one because it is a look at... It's basically an enemy book for all the different supernatural types that were not covered in previous Hunter the Vigil titles. So that means that Prometheans are in there, changelings from Changing the Lost, demons, mummies, and geists as well. Or, well, sin eaters, I should say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely a pretty strong one, and reviews have been very good so far. So, yeah, definitely cool to see that.
Yeah, I'll definitely be picking that one up sometime soon because I think it should be kind of useful in general because of with regard to Mummy and various of ones, it might give some more insight into that game.
Absolutely. So I think that's just about it for new Onyx Path titles. Obviously, the Onyx Path website and blog has a lot of new content all the time, so it's a little hard for us to keep track of all of it. But definitely one of the big things that just started coming out is some of Dave Brookshaw's new insight into the Fallen World Chronicle. So that's definitely going to be a very interesting new Chronicle book for Mage the Awakening, using the updated God Machine Chronicles rule set. So really cool to see that. We'll put a link in the show notes so you can dig into it yourself and see what you think.
Yeah, they've really pumped out a lot on the blog, because I mean, we've recently had, along with that, we've had Stu Wilson and Idigan Chronicles, and his blog posts on that. We've also been having the the Dark Ages 20th anniversary posts that look at, I think they've looked most recently at the Libon, and so how to really incorporate vampires from the Dark Kingdom of Africa, essentially. So
yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing to note with that, is that this is now like a third look at Libon. So there's the original Vampire the Dark Ages write-up for them, and then they had the Kindred of the Ebony Kingdom sourcebook, which came out in like 2004, right before the end of the World of Darkness, and that had Libon broken up into many different legacies, which are equivalent to either bloodlines or really clans. And now this is actually a third look, which brings them back to being a unified bloodline, but takes a different approach from the previous source material. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing to check out as well. And you know what? We'll just link it in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Good plan.
And I think, is that it for the news? Obviously, we have a contest, which we'll be talking about at the end of the show, but for Darker Days, I think we've covered everything for ourselves, really.
As we're recording this, I'll most probably tonight start editing our new spin-off Darkling series with Michelle and Sam. So we recorded the first part of that. Yeah, that was good fun. I'm hoping people will enjoy it, because we have, I think, quite a lot of content to cover.
Absolutely, very good.
Yeah, the moment that's there, people will know it's there, because it'll turn up on the feed.
Yeah, definitely. All right, good. So with that, I think it's time to move on over to the classic World of Darkness segment.
Classic World of Darkness.
All right, Chigg and Chris, this is the last episode of Season 5. And I think you all know what that means. It means we need to talk about Wraith a little bit. So, Wraith is a pretty complex game. At the end of last season, we actually talked about the geography of the Shadowlands, which was pretty tough. And actually, I was reading over some Wraith books this past weekend, and yeah, kind of figured I didn't have a very good handle on geography of the Wraith setting anymore. Definitely need to go back and check out that episode again. But let's talk about factions. Let's talk about the politics of Wraith, because unlike other World of Darkness role-playing games, there's a lot more moving parts in Wraith than a lot of other games, because it's really not just a shadowy conspiracy underlayer to the world. This is now the world itself. It's the world of Stygia and the Shadowlands, and that whole other realm that exists. So, Chigg, you've looked over this a little bit. We have, of course, the hierarchy, which is the core government, really, of Stygia and the Dark Kingdom of Iron. You also have the Renegades, who are basically the punk elements of the setting, which act frequently in rebellion to the hierarchy. You have the Heretics, which are more religious cults. You have the Ferrymen, which are the sort of neutral party that handles a lot of the guidance through the Tempest and Shadowlands for safety and transportation. And then you finally have the guilds, which are really the masters of the powers of Wraith, the Arcanoi, and they cover not only some institutional knowledge, but also politics as well. So Chigg, where do you want to start? Do you think we should start with the hierarchy?
We should probably start with the hierarchy. That's sort of the default group in the setting. So,
absolutely, yeah. I don't know about default group. I think actually this is actually an important thing a point to bring up before we jump right into this. Wraith is a very splatless game. You don't have to choose a clan or a tribe at character creation. You just create your Wraith. And there's a good chance that they might be part of the hierarchy. But if they're recently passed away and entered the Shadowlands, they're not actually going to have a faction that they're a part of yet. So there's a good chance they'll just be this sort of rogue element that might be picked up by, say, the hierarchy or passing renegades or something else, just as they're brought into the world. But there's also equal chance that they will be faced with a choice very early on about who they're going to support, which they may accept or they may really regret in the future. But yeah, let's start with the hierarchy. So the hierarchy is a really monolithic, or from the exterior, it seems like a monolithic organization. It's the core government of the Republic of Stygia and the Dark Kingdom of Iron, which is the core Western setting and society of Wraith the Oblivion. Stygia, of course, is its capital, and the hierarchy is basically made up of two elements. You have sort of a bureaucracy that exists in much of the higher levels, but most of the people in the hierarchy are part of the legions, which are 8 different feudal militaristic groupings of wraiths, which the vast majority of wraiths are a part of. And what these do is they actually cover harvesting of souls. That's really their main purpose. And each of these legions has a different particular death or classification of death that they're able to reap. So specifically, the Skeletal Legion and the Skeletal Lord are able to reap those that have died of old age. And
the Skeletal Legion is disease, actually.
Shit. Ash Legion? Is Ash Legion the death one?
Iron Legion is age.
No. Iron Legion is violence, sir.
I'll double check, but
I have no idea.
The Iron Legion, ruled by the Ashen Lady from the Seat of Shadows and consisting of the victims of old age. We have Despair, Mystery, Happenstance. Violence is the Grim Legion.
Oh, okay. And that's with the Smiling Lord.
Yes. Iron is old age. Penitent is madness. Skeletal is pestilence. And the Legions of Fate, ruled by the Ladies of Fate from the Seat of Fate, and consisting of those whom Fate has marked for its own. Ooh.
That's good. This is going to sound great in the finished product. I don't know how I'm going to edit all that. So clearly Chigg knows what he's talking about here. And
I actually have the book open in front of me,
yeah,
so
no,
I'm cheating.
Kind of doing this from memory. Okay, so you've got legions, and they are the ones that Chigg just mentioned. So they reap these different souls that come into the underworld, and because of this, they get power basically. Because souls of the dead can be soul forged into different materials, and also they can simply be enslaved as thralls and used for labor and whatever else is necessary. So yes, the hierarchy sort of works on this economy of souls, and the different legions typically have their main purview, but of course, because these souls coming in are power, currency, and labor and efficiency for their economy, they all sort of try to steal them from each other as they're coming in. So that's basically how things work. The hierarchy, as I mentioned, has different legions. And these legions are all, as Chigg alluded to, governed by a Death Lord. The Death Lord is... Originally, the Death Lord was actually this sort of senator in the hierarchy, as the hierarchy was originally based off of the Roman Republic. But as time went on, it became obvious that they needed to have more decentralized forms of power, as the hierarchy in Stygia expanded its sphere of influence into the Shadowlands proper, setting up different necropoli. So at that point, they became more like dukes underneath Charon, the ruler of Stygia, and below them were different Anacreons who ruled various necropoli, which are cities of the dead, and fortifications within the Shadowlands. So yes, this sort of decentralized power base eventually sprang up. Legions obviously became more militant. They began contesting with each other, and in the Modern Nights, with Charon vanished from the Shadowlands, it seems like civil war and outright combat is, very close to occurring within Stygia. So while this entire hierarchy organization seems very monolithic, in fact, it's very fractious and seems as though it's going to start breaking up very soon. Just to quickly go over, as I mentioned, the hierarchy is very, very much based off of the Roman Republic, such that the different ranks within it are mostly picked out from Roman government and military ranks. So you have legionnaires, centurions. Legionnaires are kind of like the bottom rung within the hierarchy. They're basically just the membership card, that sort of thing. Centurions themselves lead different patrols, as they're called. It's kind of the name for their circles of wraiths, and they move about enforcing the laws and of the hierarchy itself, and also grabbing souls that they find along the way. Then you of course have marshals who control small haunts and outposts. Regents are similar, but just a higher rank. And then you have the overlords and Anacreons who rule from the citadels. The interesting thing, which kind of differentiates Wraith the Oblivion from, say, Vampire the Masquerade, is that there is no real prince of the city. You might have an Anacreon who is most powerful, but since each legion has its own Anacreon within the citadel, or the couple of citadels in the city, each of those form a sort of council, which is supposed to govern the hierarchy and apply its rules and laws in the region. So because of that, you have a lot of options for politics, and not just one main ruler kind of make decisions like the prince of a city. So I think that's just about it. The hierarchy obviously has very different applications of its laws in different regions because it's become so decentralized. So, there's a good chance that you might be in a very liberal city at one point, then hop on the Midnight Express and end up in someplace else which is far more conservative or far more dangerous in a lot of ways. So, Chigg, what do you think about the hierarchy? You come from this, as a fan of, say, Changeling. I'm coming at it from more of a Vampire the Masquerade standpoint. So what do you think about this compared to, say, the Changeling court system? And
I do like the hierarchy. It provides for a less rigid structure of gameplay, although it's basically ever present if you're going to play a Wraith game, because they control all of the important places that you might want to go. So I enjoy them. It's definitely a different style of gameplay. Like you said, there's no one way that they do things between their various strongholds. So yeah, it allows for a lot of individual storyteller decision making.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Chigg, you have Wraith 2nd Edition, and I was actually researching through Wraith 1st Edition, preparing for this. So one of the things I noticed, which was actually very interesting, is that it almost seems like the hierarchy are the good guys in Wraith 1st Edition, which is really strange because they're obviously a really horrible organization. Institutionalized slavery, there's soul forging, and all this backstabbing politics. And yet, the way that it's written, because the book mostly covers the history of the hierarchy, as opposed to being written from the history of the Renegades or something like that. Because of that, it almost makes them seem as though they're the the good, stable organization that's really trying to hold everything together, rather than looking at how they're very evil.
I think that's again, first edition games had that issue where law and good were considered the same thing, and chaos and evil were considered on the same page. As you go through second and then revised editions of the games, you'll see that the Sabbat, for instance, from Vampire, went from being crazy, mindless, almost Viking-type group who came in and raided and killed everybody and then ran off into God only knows where, into being their own faction with rules and rituals and human intelligence, basically.
Yeah.
Second edition, though, does make the point that the hierarchy is the most lawful and hidebound group, and does give the average Wraith the best chance to survive against the various specters and maelstroms and other crazy monsters that are in the Shadowlands.
Mm-hmm.
However, you did forget one of my favorite parts of the hierarchy, since you mentioned slaves and horrible, horrible treatments.
Yep.
The bar guests.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was an incredibly horrible but awesome idea, where they take a wraith who, whatever, they don't like them, or they've broken too many laws, or just, hey, we need one of these, grab that guy. And they turn them into dogs, basically. They reconfigure their bodies into horrible half-man, half-dog beasts. They lobotomize them, and they are slaves from then on, whose only job is to hunt down and catch the shadow guys.
Yeah, the specters and all that.
Specters, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, they also used to hunt down like rogue wraiths and that sort of thing. So yeah,
sure,
they're
renegades. And, yeah, they're super, super dark and disturbing.
Yeah.
And those are the good guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about Wraith, is that because there's no other, say, animals, there's no... You can't really construct things from the Earth itself. Because of that, they have to make a lot of very interesting and peculiar... I'm not sure really the word to use for this, but let me give you some examples. So, for example, Stygia is it's in the Tempest itself, amongst the it's on the Isle of Sorrows, it's called, between the sea and the far shores. So because there's no like building materials, let's say, Charon actually had to go to different locations around the world, like the Library of Alexandria, and get stone, like let's almost say relic stone from those locations, to bring back and use to build his city in the Tempest. So that's one of the very peculiar things. You can't just, say, find some wood or something to build a house. You actually have to go somewhere else, or just reside in a Shadowlands structure, which is a shadow of something that remains in the real world. And then likewise, yeah, they have to use these strange constructions from other wraiths to make, say, Barghast, or to soulforge another wraith into a sword, because they need a weapon or something. Yeah, it's a very interesting game because of that, and the different, really, physics that are involved in the Shadowlands. So, that's pretty good. Chris, do you have any comments about the hierarchy as you've been listening right here?
But you were saying about, I think the cool thing that you ended on, the idea that that Chiron and others, it's just as the same as with, I think, as in Geist, as in Exalted as well. If you want to fashion something, whether it's a building or an item, either you're going to render down some ghosts into the very material to make the things, or you're going to go find the reflections of things that have possibly that have been destroyed. So I think there's a lot of even in that there's a lot of storytelling potential for lost mysteries. Like, what if somewhere on a stone block in the Citadel, on the very island in Charon's Citadel, there is an inscription of some lost ancient magic, and it only survives because in the real world it is gone. So there's a lot of storytelling potential there, both for Wraith and for other classic World of Darkness games where you do the typical Orpheus thing of you have to go into the underworld to recover something. So that's kind of cool. And the people that make up the hierarchy are then wonderful antagonists to come up against in your little Orphic journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Great point. So let's quickly talk about the Renegades. These are really the kind of punk faction of Wraith the Oblivion, which is very nice to see since it's such an overwhelmingly gothic and dark setting overall. They're considered a faction, but they're really a very loose definition of faction. There's a lot of different circles of wraiths, ideologies, and really individuals as well within the Renegades. So it's very hard to pin down, an exact political stance for them, because there's just so many and so many different ideas. But Wraith First Edition makes them seem like they're almost 19th century anarchists, and that they're mostly there to sabotage the hierarchy itself and to sow dissent in many ways. But luckily that actually changes in later Wraith books. There is a source book called The Renegades, which is very good at discussing the Renegades themselves, pointing out different factions, very common ones, and also brings in a lot more gameplay options for them. So in the Renegades, there's actually 4 basic classifications that it gives us. You, of course, have the protesters. They're the ones that directly fight against the hierarchy. Some of those 19th century anarchists, sabotaging, stealing, and generally just being a pain for the local legions. But there's also the idealists, which make perfect sense. They're essentially renegades, but they want to mostly just improve the hierarchy. They want to fix things that they see as broken, liberalize it in many ways, and ensure that it's just a better organization for both the security of wraiths, but also to prevent the organization itself from crumbling, which is what they feel is currently happening. There's also just outlaws, which are the ones that perform illegal trade, work with, say, the guilds, or go about skin riding in the skin lands, and doing other things which are against the core tenets of the hierarchy. So they're the more unlawful ones who really just couldn't get along in the hierarchy itself. And then there's the others, which are simply called the dropouts. They choose really to ignore Stygian society because, for whatever reason, they don't like it or they don't fit in. They tend to make their own small circles and communities to try to survive because outside of, say, Necropoli, it's very, very dangerous. There's specters roaming about. There's other underworld monsters which could attack wraiths. So if they are going to set out and make their own little, say, almost farm community out on the side, they need to be very careful and work together as much as possible. The other kind of cool thing that's in that source book is the idea of the Renegade Lord, which is a former Death Lord, apparently. We don't really know if he exists or not. But rumor has it that he was a former beggar lord who saw all the issues with the hierarchy itself and threw off his mask, took up another one, and became a leader amongst the renegades. It's just kind of a neat idea that they have their own sort of Death Lord in some ways, but no one really recognizes him, which kind of just makes for some interesting role-playing options when a faction supporting him turns up. Did anything jump out for you, Chigg, regarding the Renegades?
Yeah, why are they not working toward transcendence? Why, if you don't want to play the game of the hierarchy, it seems like the best thing to do is to get out of here.
That's a great point, Chigg. It's interesting that originally the hierarchy formed as, and really the city of Stygia, as a place for wraiths to go and to be supported in their path towards transcendence. But really, in a lot of ways, transcendence's knowledge of it or the expectations of it have fallen to the wayside, become unknown. And as such, maybe these renegades don't even know about it. One of the interesting things about Wraith is that the entire Shadowlands, the hierarchy, all these different factions, the Spectres, Oblivion, all of that exists to distract you from actually transcending. So as such, these are individuals that have been distracted by this politics and taken away from the path towards transcendence.
Right, but okay, so everybody has seen Ghost, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you starved to death in Africa when you were 4, you missed that movie. But generally, if you're from the modern day in the United States or Western Europe, you're familiar with the Patrick Swayze classic Ghost. So if you wind up as a ghost, you might think, hey, maybe I should work on resolving this stuff and not get bogged down in these petty politics with these people who have been dead for centuries and are clearly not going anywhere or changing their mind anytime in the next few centuries. So I don't know, it just seems to me like one of the renegade things to do, if you want to label yourself as an anarch renegade, would be to say, hey, let's start helping other people transcend.
And there probably are factions like that, Chigg, in the book. But...
Or maybe that would be what the Heretics are.
Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah. So let's talk about the Heretics. They are another very loose organization. I'd say that the original sect, or they originally came from the Shining Ones, which were actually a group of ferrymen who traveled across the Sea of Shadows and found the far shores, which are the different heavens and hells of the Wraith setting, or these islands that are very similar to them. And these Shining Ones originally worked very closely with Stygia and came up with a sort of a program where Wraiths could go there based on their different beliefs, go to the far shores, to the appropriate one, and be guided towards transcendence. And as it happens, there's a lot of travel back and forth. Where things start to get pretty politically questionable is with the introduction of the Fishers, which are actually a very early Christian cult that began to form in Stygia in the Shadowlands. And these Fishers eventually claimed to have found this different far shore, which no one else had been to, called Paradise. And through their various political tracts and rants throughout the streets, got a lot of followers and brought them to Paradise. The problem was no one ever actually came back. So this caused a lot of strife between this particular cult of heretics and Stygia itself, because there were all these souls, which are power and currency, that were vanishing from their city. This, of course, caused a lot of tension, and eventually the Fishers themselves were banned from Stygia, and most of these other heretical religious cults that have formed amongst the wraiths and ghosts have likewise been looked at with either disdain or just outright hostility from the rest of the hierarchy. Again, they're nominally there for transcendence. That's kind of what the heretics are striving to achieve, but there's a lot of corruption. The Shining Ones themselves that still inhabit the far shores are apparently have fallen off the path themselves, and many of them have created these almost slave states over there, which are no longer helping wraiths towards transcendence. They're just collecting souls and power, and so as such, that's pretty much what's going on with the heretics. Unfortunately, they never actually had a source book like the Hierarchy or the Renegades. They were covered a bit in at least a few small factions are discussed in Necropolis, Atlanta. So if you're looking for any story ideas for them, that might be a good place to check. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I got for them.
Well, there are 3 little groups mentioned in the core book as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they are equally wacky and insane. There's the host, who believe that they are guardian angels, and so they have to go back to the Skinlands, all Delarise style. And
okay.
save people from making horrible mistakes, which, of course, only ties them stronger into the setting and kind of prevents them from transcending because now they're making new ties. There's the Children of the Green, who are Wraith hippies. They are neo-pagans and think that they will be able to transcend and move along along the wheel of life if they can just introduce peace and freedom to everybody, which, given the setting, is a noble but almost assuredly unobtainable goal. And the Riders of the Wheel, who devote themselves to worshiping fate and fortune, and they now have a casino as their house of worship, because gambling is the sincerest form of worship to the gods of chance.
All right, that's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's a different view.
Yeah, definitely good. Awesome. And just to finish things off, because we have a lot to cover this show, let's talk about the Ferrymen real quick. So the Ferrymen are pretty much super badasses. They are hermits. They are really individualistic wraiths that wander throughout the Shadowlands and the Tempest. They're guides that will take you where you need to go, but they'll do it for a price. Maybe it's a small relic you'll have to give them, maybe offer to assist them in the future, but there is always a price when working with them. But they have a very strict code of honor. They're very neutral compared to the rest of these factions that are warring. And beyond their actual role as guides and battling against specters, they actually still remember to assist other wraiths in transcendence. They themselves have chosen to not transcend, and through a ritual they are not really immune, but resistant to catharsis. So they're able to last much longer in the Shadowlands. And because they've made this choice to remain there, they still assist other wraiths in their sort of spiritual journey towards transcending and moving on to whatever lies beyond. So that's pretty much the Ferrymen. They kind of got a book in Ends of Empire, like a small third of the book, discussing them, but unfortunately I have not read that one yet, so I can't really lend any further insight, I should say, into the Ferrymen themselves.
Yeah, they were set up by Charon as well as the hierarchy. Yes. So they were set up first, and then I guess Charon decided that was not a great idea.
Sort of. There was a lot of tension between the Ferrymen were created before Stygia was created, and they didn't like this whole idea of making this one centralized city and centralized power for the entire Dark Kingdom. So they eventually decided that they were going to stay away from Stygia and remain a sort of neutral party from its politics, and which only lends to their overall badass demeanor.
But they have their own city, right? Dis?
They might. I don't know if that's in first edition, dude.
Oh. Never mind.
Yeah, the Ferrymen are pretty awesome, and really, to give them justice, it might be good to, once I've read all the Wraith books, which will take another couple years, really just do a full segment on them, because they're pretty neat. And likewise, there's also the guilds, which are very expansive. Chigg actually told me that there's, before the show, told me that there's 3 that I just didn't even know about. So there's quite a few. I think that puts them up to 11 or so.
16.
16, okay. See? Just missing them all over the place. Yeah, there's quite a few of these guilds, which are essentially the organized groups that are masters of different arcanoi, which are the powers of Wraith. They, for quite some time, worked very well within Stygia and the entire Dark Kingdom, but eventually, because they were being oppressed, essentially, by the legions of Stygia, they rebelled, and that rebellion failed, so they were essentially outlawed. The Wraiths themselves, other than the most heinous of the rebels, were not put to death. They were, given amnesty and allowed to re-enter Stygia, which kind of led to these different sort of shadow, quasi-legal versions of the guild, which still exist. The guilds themselves are very important for both the setting and the society itself, because they can help wraiths achieve different things. For example, there's the partners who can help decrease the angst of other wraiths, which actually has mechanical benefits of suppressing their shadow. So that's really important, and in fact, that guild itself it's one of those things where it's illegal, but everyone's like, oh, that's a partner, and they just kind of give them a wink. They know what's up, but because they're so necessary, they still essentially exist. After the guilds were disbanded, the legions themselves of the Wraith universe were supposed to begin instructing Arcanoids and become the masters of that in the future. However, it didn't really work out. That's why the guilds are still somewhat necessary. It's kind of like, if the army, got rid of all of the engineers and then said, oh, we're going to teach everyone engineering now, that sort of thing. Well, then you only know engineering for military applications, which really means that there's a lot of institutional knowledge which is then lost, which, is definitely not good. Which is why the guild books for Wraith are kind of interesting, because they have a lot of different powers included in them. So that's pretty much what I have to say about guilds. Chigg, what have you got for me?
When I first picked up Wraith, I thought that the guilds were going to be the splats, and they kind of are, just like in any other game. But having read through more of the books and gone through the setting a bit more, it's only very vaguely similar to the other guild or the other game lines. Like you said, Wraith has a ton of splats, but it is also at the same time a very splatless book. You can be a guild member, but it's not required. It's not even presupposed that everybody will be a member of a certain guild or another guild or this, that, or the other guild. Like you said, it's not like in Vampire, everybody's a member of a clan. And that, especially for the old World of Darkness, might take some getting used to and wrapping your head around. It's very different from basically every other old World of Darkness game.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very peculiar business decision to make guild books as opposed to, say, Legion books.
Well, the Legions did get a book, didn't they?
Yeah, they got one book, but the guilds got 6 books or something like that.
Well, there's 13 different guilds and only, 8 legions, did we say?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And, like you said, the legions basically know the powers and abilities that are in the core book. They don't have all that other knowledge and lore that you can find in the Arcanoi that the guilds had, which is in the guild books. So it makes sense that, if you're playing a Legionnaire, here's what the legions do. Here's the Legion book. They're all organized basically along these particular lines, and this legion does this, and that legion does that, and the other legion does the other, and that can all be contained within one book. The guilds are just crazy, wacky, cuckoo. They have their own traditions, their own sub-factions, their own everything. So it makes sense that they would each get their own book.
All right, I see what your argument is that they're a more optional part, so they have the optional books.
Right.
Okay, that's fair. It's, of course, way different than, say, clan books from Vampire the Masquerade or tribe books from Werewolf. But again, that's part of the whole getting used to it with Wraith. Yep. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the different factions. There are, of course, other sub-factions that exist, and a couple minor groups that pop up in other places. And, of course, there's other Dark Kingdoms, like the Dark Kingdoms of Jade, Ivory, Obsidian, Clay.
And aside from Sand, that was, I believe, the Mummy Dark Kingdom.
Yes.
And Jade, which is, of course, the Kindred of the East Dark Kingdom. Did any
Nope.
of these other... No?
Nope, not really. I mean, Dark Kingdom of Jade is just specifically a Wraith structure. I don't believe the Kindred of the East, the Kuei Jin, really interact with it too much, because they specifically go to the Thousand Hells.
That's right.
So there's definitely some crossover and interaction, but not too much.
Well, my question was going to be, do any of these other alternative kingdoms get a book or get a write-up or get future information?
Oh, sure. I mean, this is, again, something that should be kind of covered in the future, maybe a different segment. But just kind of real quick, yes, Dark Kingdoms had, or for the different Dark Kingdoms, there was Dark Kingdoms of Jade and Dark Kingdoms of Jade Adventures. So they really got 2 books right there, which is kind of neat. I would assume World of Darkness Tokyo, because it's sort of a Wraith book, also has some discussion of the Dark Kingdom of Jade, or at least kind of the weird crossover mess that's going on there. Additionally, Necropolis Atlanta has some information about the Dark Kingdom of Ivory, which is the African kingdom. Because of the slave trade that was going on for so long, the Dark Kingdom of Ivory actually set up shop with a couple wraiths in the city of Atlanta and the surrounding area to try to pick up souls of those that died there, of say, slaves and that. Additionally, yeah, the others were kind of covered in a few different places, like the Wraith Player's Guide. One thing I will say about the Dark Kingdom of Obsidian is that I think there is a missed opportunity with them. As it stands in canon, what happens is, the Western Wraiths come in from Europe.
And what, for our listeners,
Yep.
what are the Dark Kingdom, or what is the Dark Kingdom of Obsidian?
Sure, the Dark Kingdom of Obsidian is a failed kingdom that used to inhabit North America and South America. And of course what happened in World of Darkness tradition is that the Western Wraiths came over and they displaced or killed the natives to North America. I think this is actually kind of a missed opportunity, because what could have been really interesting for the setting is that if, based on what was happening in the real world, in the mortal world, with the Trail of Tears and the different wars that were going on in the what would become the Midwest and Western United States, due to all of the death that was happening for the Native Americans, that would have created a fairly large and fairly fast influx of native wraiths into the Shadowlands, which would have actually bolstered the Dark Kingdom of Obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been very interesting if, even by the time of the Modern Knights, they actually still existed and maybe clearly contested North America. Could have just added some more interesting interaction between different societies, and brought in just kind of a new cool aspect to Wraith the Oblivion.
Well, I believe that the North American Dark Kingdom is mentioned in Mediums, which is one of the books of Wraith that I've read.
Yes, I think they are. I have not checked that one out yet, but yes,
but only in passing. I don't think that they got much information on them.
Yeah. The Dark Kingdom of Obsidian still sort of exists in a few small areas, displaced into the Tempest on some islands in the Sea of Shadows, and then also some of the South American Wraith society still exists, or at least that portion of it. So yeah, they're kind of still there, but I think that's pretty much all I have to say overall about the different Dark Kingdoms. Chris, you got any comments? Anything? Come on.
Still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. On what exactly?
I don't know, just like Wraith in general, different factions. It's kind of interesting when you look at Wraith, just on the surface, you have these 3 main factions. You have the Hierarchy, the Renegades, and you have the Heretics. And then you also look at Vampire the Masquerade, and you're like, we have the Camarilla, the Anarchs, and the Sabbat. You've got Stasis, you've got the Rebellion, you've got that kind of pseudo-religious organization. And yet, Wraith really does it very, very differently. They have a different political setup with the Archaons, these different necropoli and citadels. the Renegades themselves are very fractious, but it's not because they all specifically despise this monolithic organization that they were once part of. Some of them are just outlaws or really just want to do their own thing overall. And then the Heretics are obviously extremely different compared to the Sabbats, since they're such a various and fractious organization, or not really organization, political bloc, you could almost say. So overall, yeah, they're definitely something different. And I don't know, Chris, maybe from your New World of Darkness standpoint, what do you think about these different factions?
I would say there's a lot more room within Wraith, or at least the way they've been presented, I guess, to enable kind of a more diverse presentations of these groups, based upon which continent your game is based in, what city it's based in, and obviously from what cultural background you have. Whereas I think, compared to Masquerade, Masquerade, the Camarilla, and Sabbat seem rather monolithic. The other thing is, as you say, in Wraith, is that the guilds and these factions, they seem to have less. Your Wraith that you play is not defined at the start by any of those groups. There's something that you join. So there's maybe some similarity there to there's elements there of what you join and how you do things, maybe closer to, say, like something like Promethean, because Promethean, you are a particular type of Promethean, but you follow a particular path, and then that changes your philosophical outlook on what you're doing. Maybe the same with Geist. I mean, Geist, you're literally making your own mythologies and your own philosophies on what death is, and then depending upon where you are and where you go into the lower depths and into the underworld, it depends upon which part of the world you're in, and you find all these domains, and so they have different factions there. So yeah, I would say Wraith, in the way it's been set up, is, compared to, say, a lot of the other old World of Darkness games, is maybe a lot more freeform with its factions and how your character fits in with them.
Yeah, it is absolutely very, very modular in a lot of ways. Because, again, we were talking about the guilds a little bit, and there's a good chance that you go to a necropoli and none of the guilds exist there because, the politics or the laws, really. So you can really just mix and match as much as necessary, which is very cool. Makes it a lot like one of the New World of Darkness games with its general toolbox nature. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, good. I think that's all we have to say about Wraith, right, Chigg?
I think that's all we have to say about Wraith for now.
For now. Perfect. And with that, let's move on over to the secret frequency.
It's under the stairs. I love my mom.
For this secret frequency, we'll be looking at a few locations around the world which have mysterious ruins that predate known civilization. So we'll pick out these, we'll go over them quickly, and look at maybe how they can fit into different games. So let's go with the first one. Apparently, in Bosnia, there is the oldest known pyramid in the world. Now, I'm going to preface this with the fact that this is massively contentious on whether it's as old as it is, whether it is actually a true pyramid or not. But apparently there's a pyramid in Bosnia that's 25,000 years old. That means it predates Sumeria and Babylon. And there's a lot of things there, a lot of work done by local archaeologists to make sure, it is actually a true pyramid. And a lot of other people obviously discount these claims and think it's all just one big hoax. But let's disregard the fact it could be a hoax, or and consider that maybe it is actually real. The thing is that this you could use as an idea that if it's if it's something that's slowly forming the pyramid, maybe the magic or the energies that surround it mean that dating of this location is incredibly hard. Maybe the site is aging backwards, and as we go further into the future, it will become a true pyramid. And this harks back to some of the ideas to the ancient historical site, which is in the sci-fi book Hyperion, which again, there's this idea that these tombs are aging backwards, and for some reason. So yeah, maybe this is a site that has yet to be one. But in the real world, it's pretty much discounted. You can look it up. The next one is Göbekli in Tepe in Turkey, and this is quite a well-renowned one because this is a series of standing stones which are quite large. They date to 11,000 years old, and they have some of the. It basically is one of the oldest locations of human worship, and also potentially it shows signs of humans gathering together before there was the development of agriculture, because agriculture requires quite a collective endeavor of humans. So the dating of this makes it very old, and it's quite clear there's some inscriptions and pictographs which show animal sacrifice and so forth. So it's quite interesting that it is a place of worship that predates agriculture, because agriculture normally comes with the formation of larger societies. Another one which is wonderful is maybe we've covered this on Darker Days before, but hey, we'll do it again. The Yonaguni Monument, which is apparently 8,000 years old, and is underwater and has these very regular formations, and is considered the Japanese Atlantis, which is interesting because the date of it puts it back more than 8,000 years, so that's before the last ice age. It also kind of ties in with the island of Mu, which is a MU, and that ties in with other Atlantis-like myths in the kind of Pacific island area. Obviously, it has a lot of interest with kind of the classic ideas that there was a pyramid building society that was actually spread across the globe, and it's a site of active research. Then we have the Gulf of Kambat in Israel, which is apparently 9,500 years old. This is located at the bottom of the Sea of Galilee, and this has various rock formations and other structures which obviously seem to be man-made. There's a problem with the dating of artifacts from there because things have been done using dredging, and so it's not considered true archaeological excavation, because then you can't really make proper dates for these items. So again, another ancient site underwater, given its location in the world, makes it fairly interesting. And then lastly, we have the Bimini Road, which is apparently 12,000 years old, and this is located off the coast of the Bahamas. Again, we have these regular stone structures. The idea is that one group of people says it's 12,000 to 19,000 years old, flouting conventional understanding that advanced civilizations only emerged 5,000 years ago. Then the other thing with it is that there's numerous kind of rope holes, anchor stones, and that this line of stonework may have been an old barrier to the seas. So yeah, there we go. A brief number of different ancient sites, maybe ancient sites, across the world, which maybe have some significance within your game, especially if you're playing, say, Mummy the Cursed Mage in all its forms, maybe in some way related to Wraith. How you make use of them is, I'm sure there's numerous ways you could do stuff with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, what do you think?
Well, I think the one that I'm most frequently drawn back to is the Göbekli Tepe in Turkey.
Yeah.
Because it seems a little strange that they're assuming that's this place of worship simply because there's standing stones, similar to, say, like Stonehenge. But that kind of brings up some interesting ideas about what exactly they might have been worshipping. These standing stones, these vertical stones, they almost seem like perches to me. So I'm curious what exactly might have been perched on them. Probably something with wings, maybe a demon, possibly an angel. What about a gargoyle? What about something even older, maybe a dragon, just to go with some of the submissions we got for our contest recently?
Maybe the Strix. Maybe this is a location where this is the origin of all vampires.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Again, the other thing is, like, how many of these sites are actually man-made? You could argue that there were other humanoid creatures that existed before mankind, other failed experiments, maybe of the God Machine. Or maybe these are the leftovers from the Nephilim back when they walked the earth. You could go with that kind of thing, because the thing about these things is they are such large structures. Could they really have been made by man back in those times? Is always the big question. I think the Japanese Atlantis. Obviously, you can go with you can basically bring up a lot of Cthulhu kind of inspiration with that. Again, what is the purpose of this structure? Was it a place for making offerings to gods, or is it a location? Is it actually the location of Atlantis where it fell? Maybe. I mean, it's 8,000 years ago. Maybe it's got something to do with Irem. Maybe not. Anything else that's interesting we can say about ancient sites? You could tie them in possibly with the fact that they could have been created by spirits back when the wall between worlds was non-existent. Before the fall and the sundering. So maybe these are all sites created by things that are now cut off from our world. Maybe, for instance, you could also say that, going back to kind of the Stonehenge thing and the fact they always seem to find more henges around the coast of the UK, as like you have certain storms uncover these ancient sites when the sand from beaches is blown away. It's interesting how many of these sites actually can be located near the ocean. That maybe the one with standing stones, maybe numerous gentry were all killed at the same time and became these essentially became fossilized and formed these stones, which are now a verge between our world and the hedge.
Or they were left there as a warning to others: don't come back, we know how to kill you.
Yeah. I think the most powerful one, my favourites out of the list, is the one in Turkey, and obviously the Japanese site. I think the Bosnian pyramid one is such a it's so contentious, that one. I mean, yeah.
25,000 years is ridiculously old.
Yeah, I almost feel like
that's 20,000 years older than Babylon.
just glancing at this, I'm not a geologist, but
It looks kind of like a hill.
it looks kind of like a hill. You can have stone underneath the hill, unless they uncover it and they see stone blocks specifically.
Or
and
a
lot of
door.
them, or a door, or something like that. It seems rather improbable to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing is if you look it up on even if you look at the wiki, it's considered a cruel hoax by the European Association of Archaeologists.
Okay.
You know, it's like I say, it's considered a big joke. But that's why I would use it in the idea of like maybe this is something that is aging backwards, and that's maybe a way you can work it in.
And of course, we all know that the technocracy would want it to be seen as a cruel hoax.
Oh yeah, or the God Machine. Obviously, it's all just one big cover for a more important infrastructure located, 5 miles the other direction. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else that fits into that with other interesting ancient sites that we can think of. I mean, there's all the classics like Stonehenge and the Nazca Lines and all the other locations like that. Yeah, but I think the fun thing is with these is to often kind of re-examine how you could make use of them in your own games.
Cool. All right. So is that it for the secret frequency? I think it is. Let's kind of
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, let's go on over to the new World of Darkness.
World of Darkness 2.0.
We are looking at the latest book from Mummy the Curse, which is, when I get the name right for it, so I go to the first page. So we're looking at Cursed Necropolis DC. So this is a setting book for Mummy the Curse, located using the location of Washington, D.C. The main themes of this is making use of the idea that, I guess, kind of fairly, that in some respects, Washington is the capital of the current Rome. And as with all things that rise, they fall. Just as Irem rose, it fell. And so Washington, D.C. is an interesting city, not only because it is considered the city of monuments, it also has an interesting layout, which means it has particular structure to it, and also certain number of these monuments have and certain important buildings reflect back on more ancient construction. So obviously, Congress, the building of Congress, obviously invokes ancient Rome. You have obviously the Washington Monument, which is a giant obelisk, which invokes ancient Egypt, and various other buildings that, of course, do the same. So the main themes are obviously the idea of what has risen will fall, the idea that the mummies, the arisen that live in Washington, are wanting to bring about a new Irem, and that this Irem will not fall, and of course that this may all just be for folly, and that the fact that their idea of creating this new Irem is ludicrous. And into this, you then also have the idea that this is a center of power where many relics are flowing to, because numerous arisen around the world actually hope that Washington will transcend Irem itself and be an Irem reborn. So yeah, then within the book, we obviously get the history of Washington, D.C. We get a bit about the people behind who chose that spot, the construction of the city, the layout of its city, and how it's been this constant conflict between the Arisen and mortals, as the Arisen, of course, over time have to go back, due to their descent, back into their tombs to sleep. We also then have the fact that Washington has its history interlinked with numerous other events. So obviously how it ties into the War of Independence and its original origin there, then into the American Civil War, and then into more recent events and how there are other places that have a cult structure that were weakened due to more recent events. So obviously it gets into like the Pentagon being this pentagon in shape and how that ties in with more recent terrorist activities that have, of course, happened. And then we have, of course, how the Arisen are making use of their city, how there's different factions, how there's a main group of a main merit of Arisen who are all guild masters who are working towards this grand plan, and who right now are awaiting their leader to wake up to guide them in continuing the construction of the city. But of course, he is nowhere to be seen. We then also have mixed in with all this the dubious nature of the construction of the city. Was Washington, D.C., was the construction of the city also aided by the Deceived, the sixth guild of Arisen, who are considered heretics? Which leads us into an interesting point that the Arisen thematically have more in common with the people that live in the city than the actual congressman and the president and so forth, because the very people that live in the city are not the controllers of a country. They are at the beck and call of the people that control the country, much like how the Arisen themselves are not they're not the kings, they're not the emperors of Irem. They were the attendants to the true leaders of Irem, the Shaniatu. And then we have within there, there's pretty much, I think, almost every single member of the Arisen of Washington is almost detailed, because they say there's about only 24 that live in the city. So it's quite easy to fit 24 NPCs into a book. And then we, of course, have about how you would make use of the city for your own chronicle, and about balancing these different themes. And then we get the example story, which is, I think, quite interesting, because I think it's maybe the most interesting part of the book, because it gives us more insight into the Deceived.
How does the Sixth Guild infuse concepts with Secum? Because the other five, they have a physical thing they can play with, right? They have either a bug or whatever. Really?
No, because it's going to come. It's in one of the next books. The Deceived. I would still say from this book, I don't really know how to make use of the mummies, because, again, the Arisen are very focused on gaining relics and channeling Second into the duat. So the whole thing of Washington being this new Irem seems like a single NPC's and then his group that he brought to him. His kind of distraction from that, which I guess works into the idea of what the struggle between mummies being slaves to their purpose and having freedom is all about. But it still doesn't fill me with... I'm still not too sure exactly what to run with this city book, and then what to run with Mummy itself. Did I say about the Deceived and about their conceptual magic?
I did not hear anything about that.
Right. So in the adventure you have you get some insight into this Deceived, and you realize that they're relics, because each guild has a particular relic attached to them that they use to channel Second and to channel their magic. So the Deceived, their relics, as it says here, are tied to more conceptual concepts. So they, for example, in this case, the deceived that's behind the plot of the story in this book is able to make use of his relic. Almost seems to be a star that you cannot see in the sky, and so he can see it because obviously he can see how Sekhem flows, and you can see how it flows to this unseen star. And it just ties into the idea that the deceived obviously have power over concepts, whereas the scribes have power over the words. They cannot create new words. The deceived can create new concepts, and so that is where their magic is rooted. And so this Amkata that he makes has that literally tied into its body. And so it's almost very, very chimerical in its form. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff about the deceived from the very small sections in this book, but I'm still not really left with any greater feeling of how I would run Mummy as a game. Saying that, I would say the DC setting, from the way it's presented, shows how it would be really good for a mage game, because obviously you have all these monuments, you have all this symbolism, you have the pentagon and other things that represent control, and they all represent various different aspects of the Exarchs. So I think there's maybe something in that can be used in other games, but personally still, I'm not too... Mummy really hasn't grabbed my interest as much as, say, Demon has. Demon, I get a feeling of what a game is about, and again, Demon seems very much more personal in nature, because you're trying to understand why you're in the world, why you're doing things. Can you be something more than what you were? Whereas with Mummy, because of the way that memory works and so forth, it makes it seem hard to find what your character's actual purpose is, beyond just, taking relics and putting them in your tomb.
Yeah, Chris, we were just discussing that a little bit last night with Aaron. It seems like there's basically these two core modes of play, which are either mummy politics or collecting relics or MacGuffins, really. And beyond that, I'm kind of struggling to figure out what you're supposed to do. If there's like any other basic, more interesting gameplay modes, because you can kind of do those two things with basically all the other World of Darkness games. There are some pretty cool aspects to the DC setting. There's this sort of Illuminati architectural conspiracy going on, which you, as the mummies, have caused, but you don't actually know what happens when you were asleep. So, what you intended to be constructed might actually be something completely different, which is kind of neat and something interesting to explore as sort of like an occult mystery kind of story. Another thing I was kind of thinking about from Mummy is that, the mummery aspect, sorry, I think I said mummery, the memory aspect, I don't know if that's used enough in the game. And I think one of the cool things you could do is that by using the memory stat and the little breadcrumbs that could be fed to players, that could give you insight into the agenda of your antagonist, whether it be their political agenda or something different. By looking to the past, you can, give insight to the future, which I think could be a cool way to drive the story forward.
Are you saying that a mummy game should be played like a Highlander TV series?
Wow, yeah. Actually, that's, yeah.
That sounds a lot more, when you put it that way. And they do give in this book flashbacks, so they give you key time periods in DC's history that would be good to do flashbacks to. Yeah, when you put it that way, maybe Mummy is the Highlander game. And then it changes things a lot more, because the thing is, it's really funny you put it that way, because in Highlander, they're all fighting and vying for the final gift, this energy. And as Highlanders kill each other, they gain each other's not abilities, but there's the idea they gain their power, whatever that bloody well means.
The quickening.
The quickening. And yeah, maybe Mummy is the perfect Highlander game. That's interesting.
Are there rules for trench coats and katanas in the main book?
No.
They missed an opportunity.
No, it's more sickles and big cloaks. But I think the thing that I find problematic is that there's such a high level goal for mummies that they work towards, whether they like to or not. And then I don't feel like the politics that have been presented so far that mummies can get involved in seem really any point. They seem like mere contrived distractions to kind of trick themselves that they're not just servants. I mean, maybe that is the point of the game, but I don't feel like there's much I can get out of playing that. And I find the antagonists within Mummy that they have, so that's ghosts and really ancient ghosts, the Amkata, which are just created by mortals, and the Deceived, the Shuanks, and Last Dynasty International. They seem more interesting than the mummies themselves.
Well, then you're running into the werewolf problem, where the antagonists are way cooler than the actual heroes.
Yeah, for more, you're awesome.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's kind of an issue sometimes. Is there anything for the cults? Because that's a whole aspect of play that's discussed in the Mummy the Cursed core book. So I'm kind of wondering what support there is for cult play specifically.
Not much more. It's really just talking about how their cults fit into the political and everyday life of Washington. So obviously, there's a group of cultists who are involved in the Bennu initiative, which is to digitize all the Iremite texts, and so there's this kind of, I think the cult at that level, the cults are kind of interesting, and then that pushes us towards the thing that really, then the default play is maybe to play cultists, and maybe your storyteller is playing your Arisen.
Maybe. Or you switch off and just one person plays as the Arisen each session.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I just don't feel like I know why there should be much antagonism between the Arisen when they're all so tied to such a high level concept. Like, I understand the antagonism between, say, mages makes sense because they represent different paths to kind of the same ideal. But we don't really, I don't think we have the same kind of thing within Mummy, because each of the groups, each of the guilds isn't really a path, it's just a task that you performed. And that doesn't really change how you perceive. I don't really feel like it changes how you perceive the descent, really, or the higher level of the game. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I mean, for Classic World of Darkness, Mummy 1st and 2nd edition didn't really even have politics.
Yeah.
Just wasn't even a function of those games.
But then in that one, it was quite clear that your group of mummies had a particular type. They all came from a particular what was it called? It wasn't a guild, was it? It was something else.
Well, it's different in Mummy the Resurrection is different. That's kind of its own thing. But in Mummy 1st and 2nd edition, there was only, I think, it's less than 100. I think there's like 72 mummies in the entire world. So they're all fairly unique. And, I mean, the politics, I guess, is just like, oh, this guy was a douchebag 500 years ago, so I don't want to support him.
That's what I'm getting from, that's still within Mummy the Curse. I think maybe it's just not my type of game. I don't feel it's addressing a very, to me, it doesn't feel like it addresses a very high level concept in a game. Like, I understand. So if you go through them all, I mean, you understand what with vampire you're fighting the ennui of your existence. You're trying to find, how do you define your immortality, because you haven't been around for too long, relatively speaking, compared to mummies. And you're also fighting the fact that that as vampires age, they forget things that can come back and bite you on the arse, like the Strix. And so there's a complex interplay between how a vampire sees how they fit into the world, but they're fairly free to explore that. Werewolves obviously have this whole thing that they are children of two worlds, exiled from both. And again, they have this calling from millennia ago that they're now fighting for, yet they have to balance the two sides themselves and of the two worlds. And but then all of that boils down into a very local problem that is, here's your pack, here's your territory, and look after it. And so, the large, you don't have to go after these large scale things. You just deal with, like, there's been a whole load of the nearby stream has become polluted, and that in turn has polluted the water spirits and is causing strange magath to appear, which are now causing trouble with other spirits, and the knock-on effect of that is, say, there's been some accident somewhere. And so you're having to deal with, I think in Werewolf you're looking at kind of like a domino effect, and you're trying to stop that and bring it all into balance. Mage obviously is really, really high concept, I think, because obviously it's dealing with how you fight your local war against the exarchs, and then how that plays into the larger scheme of things, and rediscovering ancient magics and dealing with the hubris of that. So again, there's lots of different ways it intersects with things. Promethean's obviously a road story and about becoming human, and it's very clear what you're doing in Promethean. Even though I thought that seems conceptually a difficult game to run, I think it's quite clear what you should be doing in that game. I think it requires a lot of work how to run it.
Yeah, it's kind of the bookkeeping ahead of time. That's really the issue with that game.
And you really need to plan ahead a lot with that one, and the players need to have a good idea of what would be important milestones for them.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you've got Changing the Dreaming, which is about not wanting to leave your parents' basement.
That's exactly it.
Changing the Lost is quite obvious because it's kind of finding your place in the world after and dealing with the abuse and it coming back after you, and also the fact that the balance between what you've experienced, which is this dreamlike world, against the real world, and trying to stay sane, because of course as you become more capable, you're more capable of becoming totally insane, or so powerful that you're no different to one of the Fae. So Changeling's got that real creepy world vibe, and there's always someone out to get you to do something kind of nefarious, whether it's the loyalists or the bridge burners or the can't think of the term. They're not loyalists.
Hobgoblins coming out
and
of
then
the
you've
hedge.
got hobgoblins, yeah. So and then you've got the court system, and then you've got the Fae themselves, and there's a lot of stuff you can work with there. But it all boils down into kind of very local issues, like you see your best friend who you have to hide away from because he thinks that that other thing is you, and you're seeing his mind being filled with nightmares by one of the Fae that's come into town. So it's very personal in that sense, because you're basically trying to hold on to a life that's been taken away. Geist is again about balance between life and death and so forth, and building your own understanding of what death means, and when I get to Mummy, I'm still kind of left kind of feeling a bit cold.
Just to backtrack a little bit, there's a really excellent post. I think it was by Fred Hicks, who's the guy who does Fate. And his point about Geist is that it's actually, Changeling Dreaming is about not wanting to leave the basement. Geist is about after you're forced to leave the basement and, making do with your life and trying to find your place and all of that. It's pretty interesting.
It sounds almost to me as though Mummy is the mirror game of Demon the Descent. In Demon, you are a rogue element who is trying to escape this monolithic god machine who's trying to build something. And for whatever reason, you have rebelled or fallen, or you are no longer towing the party line. In Mummy, the Curse, it sounds almost as though you are the unfallen demon. You are trying to rebuild this ancient empire for whatever reason. You might not even know why or what was so awesomely great about it because you don't have all the memories needed. But there's something just deep inside your spiritual DNA that whatever you do leads toward the recreation of Irem.
Well, yeah, because it's very the gods of the Duat, the judges, are quite and the Shaniatu in that case as well, are quite eldritch in their nature because they reside in this underworld, which is not like any other part of the underworld in World of Darkness. It's very much separate from it, the Duat is, and they are reaping all the benefits of their... In my mind, Irem already exists, and it's happily in the underworld, and it's where the gods and the judges and the Shaniatu get to enjoy it. And their servants are just helping perpetuate it, because the underworld runs off memories. And as things erode, things are forgotten and lose their power in the underworld. But of course, the judges have the whole thing that they make use of the fact that Sekhem still flows, and they just need to they have servants in the real world channel it into their underworld. So you are a servant who can't escape it, because if you try to escape it, you will descend quicker and you will lose your memories. Well, you will return to a state where you lose your memories again, because every time you undergo the descent and you return to your tomb, you lose all your memories of the previous time you were about until you reclaim those memories again. So I think
it really does sound like the opposite of Demon.
It is the opposite of Demon in that sense.
Like almost a mirror image, where the demons are trying to construct something from nothing, and the mummies are trying to reconstruct everything from what they start out with, which is just a driving goal.
I think, yeah, I just really can't think of a good chronicle for Mummy. Like, why would, other than with a lot of the antagonists, I can't think of why they would be going after the mummies, or why there's political strife amongst them, other than for always really petty or base reasons. Because as much as that can be, those are all very good to create drama when you need something along with your chronicle concept. I don't see what else there is, because it all just seems rather pointless.
Mm-hmm.
I got you, Chris. I got you. All right. Well, that's Cursed Necropolis DC.
If people have ideas on how to run a chronicle in a better way, they should email us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would be very interested to see some ideas. So, cool. I think that's it for the New World of Darkness. So let's move on over to our closing segment, and also the contest.
Yay, contest.
Oh, wait, we have a bumper there. Okay, hey, we're in the closing segment. All right, so yeah, we had a contest. And I gotta say, compared to our previous contest, we had, I think, 5 times the number of entries.
So that means we've had, 30 or so?
Yeah, thereabouts, 35-ish. So, yeah, definitely really huge, and definitely appreciate that. I figured we should just kind of, go through some of these entries, kind of, give our remarks, see what we think ourselves, and yeah, it should just be a pretty fun time. One thing I did notice, like a general overall trend, is there's 3 games that I noticed people are kind of coming back to, or 3 basic concepts. The first one is gargoyles. That came up a bunch of times, and it seems like it could be kind of a cool idea. Even more popular than that, though, was actually dragons. Whether it be sort of ancient entities or something a bit more Eastern, there were quite a few entries discussing that kind of a game. And then finally, I think the most popular was actually sort of a superhero-inspired game. Maybe a good one to start with is this one right here. Discussing maybe to battle against the god machine. Perhaps there's mortals who are empowered by old gods, or even a sort of a Cthulhu-like entity. I think that's pretty cool and really would fit into the World of Darkness itself, since we do have Chthonian entities discussed in, say, Second Sight for the new World of Darkness. Yeah, I think it'd be good and kind of fits both the superhero genre and the general Gnostic feel that we currently have in the World of Darkness. What do you guys think?
I think that one was my personal favorite.
Yeah.
It could be a good way of resurrecting from Second Sight the whole psychic abilities stuff they did.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, that could be. Maybe that's just the first stage. Now we're getting to the real thing. Yeah, definitely pretty cool. I don't know, guys. I mean, just kind of like kick through all of our entries, and maybe we can find something kind of interesting. Abyssal the Voiding. Not sure what they're voiding, but could be cool. Maybe
sounds like a poop code to me.
Yeah, could be.
There's been a lot of stuff involving fishmen, hasn't there? I think we've had a few entries with
a few
fishmen.
for that, and a few for like genies. Yeah, the
Street
fishmen.
Fighter 2.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Wait. What was the exact title? Yes, Street Fighter 2, the storytelling game, Turbo Edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. Yeah, with regard to the fish people or deep ones, or creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, obviously, that's kind of the thing they're riffing off of. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it goes with. Yeah,
it's kind of covered by certain games already, though. What with the kind of watery element. We have certain things in Changeling already like that. The same in we have the Sirens in not in Mummy, in Promethean. I don't really know how you can make a full game out of playing.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I guess you've got you've got the creature from Black Lagoon. You've got a mermaid, which is a bit less gross looking. But what else do you go with? You're gonna have manatees?
Yeah, I mean they're sea cows or something. Yeah, I mean I just don't know what would it be, like an underwater society, or I don't know. I don't know what to do with that one. Chigg, what do you got? Hit me with it.
You could have the merfolk or the selkies or the creatures from the Black Lagoon who have to they work as like werewolves, in that they are trying to save the 2/3 of the planet that's covered in water from the onslaught of chemicals and stuff that we're dumping in them.
Chigg, don't you remember the last episode when we were discussing the new World of Darkness book that already kind of covers that, called Changing Breeds?
I vaguely was.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
But I want to play a were-octopus, darn it.
Oh, okay. All right, that's cool. That's legit.
You just play Cthulhu Tech then.
Oh, yeah.
We played Cthulhu Tech. I was a Pokemon master. It was fantastic.
That was a pretty good one. With your 1920s gangster Pokemon.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, what else do we have here? Shoggoth the Consuming. Okay.
Transhuman the Singularity.
Yes. Yes, a transhuman sort of game. Maybe. I mean, we already have that in the classic World of Darkness, a lot with the technocracy of Mage of the Ascension.
And the virtual adepts.
And then, them too.
And transhuman stuff is kind of covered in some ways with the Free Council, sort of a mage, and you kind of get kind of the same feeling, but with a more eldritch vibe from Demon, because you're kind of transcending humans by stealing bits of them and making a patchwork cover.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Demon kind of is the off-color cyberpunk game.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Bigfoot the Sasquatching.
Bigfoot the Squatching, I believe it says.
Oh, my bad. My bad. I can't.
There's a huge difference.
There is. Let's see what else we got here. I'm really just clicking around, just kind of like finding stuff. Blade 2, The Underworld. Hobo the Hunted. Well, that's Promethean. I think we already got that one.
Stubble the Thickening. That's just werewolf.
Yeah, there's also a neckbeard game that someone recommended. Kaiju the Devastation.
So I don't have to play a were-octopus? I can just play a giant octopus?
Yes.
I am
exactly. And you have to battle teenagers who are poorly dubbed as they battle you in giant robots. Could work. I think that would actually be a great expansion to Street Fighter 2, the storytelling game.
I think that they already covered that in the old World of Darkness with the Hunters supplement for Kindred of the East.
There was no... yes, that one.
Demon Hunter X.
Demon Hunter X. Which I almost used for a game. Almost.
Have we covered Demon Hunter X on...
Nope.
On Darker Days?
We
haven't covered
do that.
Anything.
They
Anything.
covered Demon Hunter X, though, on... did they not cover that on Midnight Express?
They did. Yeah, they talked about it a little bit.
Didn't they?
Yeah.
That was definitely a game that happened.
Mole Man, The Undermining.
That's the one I just clicked on. Mole Man.
It's subversive.
Yeah. That could work. That could work. So you have an underground society this time, and they're working to, let's say, undermine all the cities, right? And destroy them.
To stop the God Machine from making its little power nodes.
It's perfect. That's a great one. Man. Accountants the balancing.
Lobbyist the bribing.
Attorney the billing.
Chupacabra the elusive.
Oh, yeah, that could work.
And then, of course, we've got the compulsory alien one, which is Alien the Unknown.
Oh, wait, what is this one? Undine, The Corruption. A game of mystic intrigue and sensual horror. Before the collapse of Pangea, you were the very fire of creation. Primordial, luminous, cataclysmic. Before the coming of the God Machine, you were the very passion of the earth. Powerful, alien, perfect. Before the fall of Atlantis, you were the very current of the ocean. Seductive, irresistible, capricious. Now you are adrift on oceans, both real and metaphorical. The Fomori hunt you, former slaves seeking revenge against former masters. The Diva Corporation stalks you, powerful men seeking yet more power. Humanity beguiles you, flame drawing a moth to destruction. With sigils in hand, you seek to recover the Philosopher's Stone, and so transcend the world. Wow, whoever Agent Westmer is, that sounds really awesome. I don't know what you do in that game, but like...
That is how you play a Mer game right there.
Yeah, I think that is the Mer game. So in that one, they'd be trying to seek out and find ancient artifacts with which to transcend. Kind of reminds me of Little Mummy right there. Or even a little mage.
I like the former slave seeking revenge thing there.
Yeah, it's opposite of, say, Changeling. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I like it. Okay, I think we probably didn't click on everyone's thing right here because we're just kind of like going through, pretty willy-nilly, being like, hey, zombie the shambling. Oh, someone else is doing a zombie game right now, so, if that ever comes out, if it ever comes out, you get your zombie game. Awesome. Cool. All right. So, I think with that, it's time to figure out some winners right here. So let me start up the Darker Days randomization computer. Chigg, can you make some like R2-D2 noises or something?
Beep boop 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 beep beep boop.
Okay.
I just imagine that the music should be from the Magic Roundabout for this.
Yeah.
And the winner is, Mike?
We have, in first place, Beverly McGaughin. Or McGaughin. I can't pronounce names. But there you go, Beverly.
And what
you
was
are
her
in first
contest
place.
entry?
You have...
Oh, it was Plants the Grown that her entry was. Why did
what?
we not
Ooh.
do that one?
Yeah, Plants the Grown.
Okay.
They're not just in the woods. They're in your garden and even in your homes, engaged in a stealth guerrilla war with humanity, biding their time until they're ready to invade, Trifid style. Nice. I like that one. All right. And second place, or first runner-up, is Oral Chromatography. What is this? What'd they say? Yes. Let's go with Dragons. Dragons of the East from ancient China, calling it Dragons the Balance. Could be interesting. Kind of plays into some similar themes to maybe like the old Mummy that we were just talking about, where they have to kind of make sure there's a balance within the world. Yeah, that could be neat. Where they can be either good or evil. And third place is Eric Crabtree, who sent us a plethora of suggestions from Blade 2 The Underworld, Fanboys The Entitlement, Hobo the Hunted, we mentioned, and of course Cryptids The Unknown. So there we go. Those are the three winners. We'll get in contact with you about the various books that you've won. Of course, first place got a signed copy of the God Machine Chronicle, and then second place can choose between a copy of the God Machine Chronicle or Geist the Sin Eaters, which has been donated to us quite kindly by the U.S. Postal Service, because they kind of dented it a little bit.
Thanks, Postal Service.
Thanks. And also donated by the overall awesome customer service of Drive-Thru RPG. So, there we go, guys. Anything else to talk about for closing remarks?
People should, I think, it'd be good, because we obviously look for secret frequencies. They should please send us more. It is hard to find some good new stuff, so people, if you have a particularly good one, send them in. Or, because I've been dying to do it, send us in your ideas for Chronicles, and we can, so Chronicle outlines, maybe we can do a whole new segment where we read out someone's idea for a Chronicle idea, and we can dissect it and see what ideas we can gain from that. Like, send us one for Mummy, please.
Not just dissect, but embellish as well. See what we have for our own ideas for it. Yeah, that could be a really awesome one.
That sounds like a fun segment for next season.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, it's the end of the season. So, as usual, we're going to do our typical request to, send us an email over at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com with some, or post on our G+ for some ideas for what to do next season. I know people still really want a Kindred of the East episode. We have invited an Onyx Path writer on the show to help us go over that interesting setting and interesting game. So hopefully she can make it, and we can finally get to that one, because I know a lot of people are interested. But other than that, yeah, there's definitely a lot that we already want to do. But if you have some cool ideas, let us know, because maybe your ideas are going to be better than ours. So that's what we're going to be looking for. So, we're Darker Days Radio. If you want to get in contact with us, of course, send us an email over at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. Additionally, you can hang out with us on our G+ community, Google+. Just type in Darker Days Radio into G+, or check the show notes for this, and you can find a link there. That's probably our most active community. But we actually have more likes on Facebook, and definitely people keep flocking to that. So we'll keep posting there as long as people are interested. where definitely we put up some photos of recently painted miniatures and other quick discussion topics yonder. And then there's of course the blog, Chris, isn't there?
There is the blog, which obviously, I don't know. The moment I get a good to go ahead on maybe trying to post stuff up, I might post up some stuff about Fading Suns or something. I don't know. I get to spill the beans soon on some stuff. I've been given the go ahead on that. But yeah, we've got the blog. Normally we've got videos there or pictures or when I feel like writing a battle report. So Chigg, yeah, you should definitely get your miniatures up on there and write up maybe a review of how Malifaux works for us, because I know jack all about it.
I could maybe do that. I've played a couple of games now.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes we've got like how to make certain bits of scenery on there as well. When I've done that,
I will need to read those.
Is there anything else where people can find us? That's pretty much it, I think.
We're also on Twitter.
Oh, of course.
At Darker Days Radio.
That's right.
And we're also on Tumblr, but I need to remember to update stuff on there. So much social media.
All right, awesome. So I think that's it for this episode of Darker Days Radio. It's going to be a fun one to listen to and a fun one for me to edit. Awesome.
Yes.
So have a good night, everyone.
See ya.
See you next season.
A Pentacle Mage or Seers of the Throne or a bunch of Mad Mages or one of the X number of left-handed Path Mages.
Yeah.
And so there's a reason why all these, you're a mage, but there's a lot more flavor in there, whereas all mummies are mummies, and except for like the Deceived and Shuangxin. But like the Shuangxin seem to have a very different kind of like, they remember everything. So they don't lose their memory because they're not servants. They were the sacrifices. So they want to just take out mummies because I think they just want to. They just want to return everything to be dead.
Maybe. It's just weird because like the judges of Duat already won.
Yeah.
So, and you were working for them. So what am I doing now? Well, we're battling over relics in Sechem. For what reason? Because we got to do something.
Yeah, and I even like in Vampire, in Requiem, like, they're fighting over something. You're already all immortal, but there's a lot more like... There's a lot more of a philosophical discussion in there about what that immortality involves, and as well as dealing with the things that, what created vampires, which you don't even get in Masquerade. You don't have that as much, maybe.
But in Masquerade, it's kind of... The reason for the strife is slightly different. It's sometimes that kind of political ideology between the Camarilla and the Sabbat. But it's more the fact that, all right, I'm a powerful vampire. No one can kill me except for other powerful vampires. So what am I going to do? Get rid of those other powerful vampires.
Well, yeah.
Right, either by killing them or marginalizing them. So that's what kind of drives the entire conflict. That's why the Antediluvians are fighting. That's why the Methuselahs are, the Elders, the Ancilla, and so forth. So that's kind of the reason for the conflict in that game. It's a mafia game. That's what Vampire the Masquerade really is.
Yeah. Because if you don't demonstrate your power, then you're going to lose it. So the moment you ever gain any power, you've got to demonstrate it, because people will then think you're weak and try and take it from you. It's this kind of, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I guess I'm utterly dissatisfied with Mummy.
I mean, there's cool stuff in there, so it's not like it's a waste. It's just like...
No, it's not a waste. It's a great antagonist book.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, seriously, it's chock full of stuff for, like, for as antagonists. I think they're wonderful antagonists for, like, Vampire or Mage or Geist. But as an actual playable thing, I don't know. I really don't know.
Got me.
It happens sometimes. I mean, Chigg and I, we have debates sometimes about, Hunters Hunted versus Hunt of the Reckoning, but it's all pretty much just moot because Hunt of the Vigil is just the superior game in every single way.
Yeah, it kind of is. Although Hunter the Vigil is way more like Hunters Hunted than it is Hunter the Reckoning.
Yes.
No, I disagree.
Yes.
I disagree.
I'm sorry that you're wrong again.
Whoa, Chigg. Them's fighting words.
Happens.
You want to get started with this? All right, Chigg. You got your little Hunters Hunted over there. It's a cool book with all of its superpowers. That's my point. Yeah.
Mostly mortals who might have a hint.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go look at the NPCs in this book.
Power.
Here, it's right over here. Here, we're gonna end this once and for all. I'm recording right now, by the way.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Are we talking about the Hunters Hunted and the ridiculous holy powers?
They're not even that ridiculous. They're super low key.
Oh, low key, you say? Oh, Let me see. Kanglor, the Lupine. He has Fortitude 5, Celerity 3, Potence 5, Presence 3, and Protean 2. Seems pretty superpowered. Let's see. Who's this? Arctos. He's a mage in Hunters Hunted 2 with. That's a lot of thaumaturgy. Who else do we have?
Weird because he's a mage.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have the mage book out yet. Oh, Walker Grimes. Oh, what's that? Another vampire. Dominate 2, Obfuscate 2, Potence 2. That seems like a lot of powers.
Tell me when you get to the one that has the lightsaber.
Someone has a lightsaber here?
No, wait. That's every Avenger. My mistake.
Oh, okay. But really, I'm just kind of pointing out that your entire argument that they're low-key, low-powered, I don't think so. What does this person have?
The NPCs might not be.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The player characters.
Caiaphas Smith. Oh, he's... Wait, is this a dude that's a ghoul? Yeah, he's a ghoul. He's a ghoul. He's been around for 150 years.
Haven't we all?
Nope. Oh, sorry, 176 years. His method is religious and heavy firepower. Let's see, do we have any other pre-made splats in here? No? I'm sorry. Hey, let me go to the magic powers section. Actually, no. We won't do that, Chigg. We won't do that. Well, let's look at merits and flaws. Merits and flaws.
Oh, hold on. Is this the true faith?
Oh, there's no merits and flaws in here. That's weird. Other than faith. Examples of miracles. By the way, these only cost a solid. How many points? I don't know. It doesn't cost a lot. All right, anyone can get it.
Sure.
Cleanse the taint of evil from an area. We already went through this on an episode.
Yeah.
Change the nature of a person. It's conversion. You can... What? Number 9. Exorcise demons or evil spirits. That's cool. Lay a ghost to rest. Okay. Permanently leave an aura of tranquility in an area such as a violent slum. Yeah, that's something.
To get those, you need to have humanity of 9 or 10, as well as true faith of the same level, which you can't really get without storyteller approval because there's no real systematic method of improving your true faith.
Except for it costs 5 freebie points to buy a level of faith, and it costs a hunter a current rating times 3 to raise faith with experience points.
They've changed that since I looked.
Well, I'm sorry. Sorry they changed the book from 1992.
Or they've changed it in the more recent edition.
I'm sorry, do you want to talk about telepathy that's in here? How about spiritual pale auras, spiritually invisible, being the fist of God? What? Whoa, 7-point merit. You can deliver blows to the kindred that cause aggravated damage.
Fucking hell.
With your fist.
Which is all of your merit points.
So, You do ag damage to vampires, which is the only thing you're fighting in this thing. Oh, 5-point merit. You're just a ghoul. Hey, have fun with your Potence 1. Ooh, whoa. That's an interesting one. 5-point flaw. Beast within. The beast is awakened within you. You're prone to frenzies just like a vampire. Huh. That's a cool flaw.
It's a fun one to have.
Cleared sight. You can see through all levels of obfuscate with perception plus alertness roll. Against the level of obfuscate plus 3. So that means difficulty against hide in shadows, difficulty 4. Difficulty 4, Chigg. That's a 3-point merit. 3-point merit to just see invisible things.
Sure. And if you have the medium merit, you can see any spirit. Any of them. Pretty nice.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Thanks, Hunters Hunted. So there you go, Chigg. I think I've proved my point that your book is just as superpowered as Hunter the Reckoning.
All of it is optional. None of it is optional in the Reckoning.
You can be a bystander in Hunter the Reckoning.
You can.
They're pretty low-key, aren't they?
Yeah, you don't have to join these monolithic organizations that have, like, I can't even think of any of their names, like the Chiron Group or so forth.
Inquisition.
Or the... you don't have to join any of those groups, and they have access to ridiculous tech. You can just play a bunch.
Yeah, you have all this backing. Yeah, it's money, man. Money. Good luck having resources 5 in Hunter the Reckoning when you're a plumber. A plumber, Chigg.
Yeah, instead you have, what is it, Arsenal 5. Because you're a plumber who happens to collect tanks on the weekends.
Shut up. It's a terrible background. It's the stupidest thing in that book.
It's in the core book.
It's the stupidest one. They should have never put that in.
I agree. You're a plumber who is also Batman.
Yeah, apparently. That is what Arsenal 5 is. Okay, Chigg, you're fine. Are you? You got me on that one.
Arsenal 5, ironically, is my big gun in this argument.